Hi everyone, Sir Janus here, and welcome to another episode of Einsteinatics TV. For today's episode, we are going to focus on atoms, which is covered by Quarter 3, Module 3 of Science 8. So are you ready to learn? For today's video, we are guided with the following learning competency. We are going to try to determine the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons in a particular atom. Moreover, meron tayong mga subtasks. Yung una, we are going to trace yung history ng idea ng atom, paano nga ba ito nagsimula, and of course, yung modern day interpretation of atoms. The second one is we are going to try to list down yung mga postulates of the Dalton atomic theory. The third one, we are going to try to describe ano nga ba yung structure ng atom at ano nga ba yung mga subatomic particles na bumubuo sa kanya, kagaya ng protons, neutrons, and electrons. And lastly, we are going to try to define and to find out about the atomic number and mass number and yung connection niya sa three subatomic particles.
Gentle reminders before proceeding. Feel free to pause the video anytime to soak up the concepts. Pause the video, especially when answering the assessments or activities. You may use separate papers for your answers, or you may download the module provided by the link on the video description. And most important of all, please don't forget to subscribe so that you will be updated for more educational videos.
This time, let us talk about atoms being the building blocks of matter. Now, as we all know, it was Democritus who first coined the term atoms, which comes from the Greek word atomos, which means indivisible or uncuttable. However, it was John Dalton who first have the modern interpretation of atoms, and he did it about 200 years ago. But only fairly recently, we could get to see what atom is through the use of a device known as the electron microscope, such as this one. The yellow blobs here or the circles here are individual gold atoms as seen through the use of the electron microscope. Ngayon naman, let's talk about Dalton's atomic theory. So yung first principle niya is that lahat ng matter ay gawa sa atoms. The second one is lahat ng atoms of a given element are identical or magkapareho yung kanyang mass and its properties. The third one, the atoms of a given element are different from those of any other element. The fourth one, yung mga compounds ay binubuo ng combination of two or more different types of atoms. And lastly, the fifth principle is that yung chemical reaction is the result of rearrangement of atoms. It is important for you to remember that elements are made up of different types of atoms. So elements are the simplest substances, and there exist about 100 different types of elements. So yung bawat elements are binubuo ng isang particular type lang ng atom, which is different to the atoms of any other element. So ibig sabihin, isang element, isang atom lang. So, magkaparehong element, ibig sabihin, magkaparehong atom yung bumubuo sa kanya. Magkaibang element, so that means magkaibang atom yung bumubuo sa kanya. As what is given by this example. So, copper is an element which made up of copper atoms only. In the same manner, yung carbon naman is an element made up solely of carbon atoms.
Remember that all substances, or ibig sabihin lahat ng bagay dito sa mundo, ay binubuo ng maliliit na mga particles, and this is what you call as atoms. So here are the example. So say for example water. So yung water ay binubuo siya ng hydrogen at saka ng oxygen atoms. We have also a plant na binubuo siya ng iba't ibang klase ng mga atoms together with the car, the trash bin, yung humans, and all other things. So you might be wondering kung gaano ba kalaki ang isang atom or kung gaano ba kaliit in this case. So An atom is typically the size of 0.1 nanometer. So as compared to a human which ranges to 1 meter. So atom cannot be seen by the naked eye, but instead through the use of what you call as electron microscope. This time, let's take a quick look on the atomic model and theory timeline. Paano ba natin naintindihan or how did we come up with the atomic model? Actually, the idea of atom goes back to Democritus. He was the one who proposed that all objects are made up of atoms. So yung term na ginamit niya is atomos, which means indivisible or uncuttable, meaning hindi nahati. And after many years, as scientists have learned more and more about atoms, yung atomic model has changed from Dalton to Thomson, Rutherford, Bohr, Chadwick, down to the modern design of the atomic model.
This time, let us proceed to the mass number and atomic number of atoms. We are going to try to determine how to compute for its mass number, the number of protons, the number of neutrons, as well as the number of electrons. We already know that atoms is so small at that it could not be seen through our naked eye. And in order for us to see the structure of the atom, we use the instrument called electron microscope. Now, if you are wondering how heavy or kung gaano ba kabigat ang isang atom, just imagine that a single grain of sand or buhangin contains millions of atoms of silicon and oxygen. So that means na atoms have extremely small mass. Dahil sa sobrang gaan ng atoms, kaya yung kanyang mass is not measured in grams, but instead, atomic mass units or the relative atomic mass is used. Now, what is relative atomic mass? It is also known as RAM. So, the element carbon is used as a representative and all the other atoms is compared to it. So, carbon has a RAM of 12. So, ibig sabihin, yung relative atomic mass of carbon is 12. So, ano nga ba yung ibig sabihin nito? So, let us use this one as an example in order for us to fully understand what is relative atomic mass. Now, the lightest among the elements is known as hydrogen. It has the 1/12, the mass of carbon, and so it has a RAM or the relative atomic mass of 1. So, 12 atoms times 1 is equals to 1 atom times 12. On the other hand naman, magnesium is twice as heavy as carbon, so it has a relative atomic mass of 24. So, ibig sabihin, 2 atoms of magnesium times 12 is equals to 24.
So, sa mahabang panahon, yung mga tao, they thought that atom were the smallest particles and it could not be broken down into a much smaller pieces as what proposed by Democritus, right? Kaya nga tinagawag niyang atomos or indivisible or uncuttable. But as science progresses, we already know now that atoms have small or smaller as what you call as subatomic particles, and it is composed of 3 types: the proton, the neutron, and the electron. You should remember that yung mga subatomic particles like the protons, neutrons, and electrons are not evenly distributed in an atom. Ibig sabihin, hindi sila nasa isang lugar lang. Now, as you can see here, yung protons and neutrons, sila yung bumubuo ng dense core ng atom or nasa center siya at itinatawag itong nucleus. Whereas electrons, on the other hand, are spread throughout the edge of the atom. So sila yung umiikot sa paligid ng nucleus. And these layers na iniikutan nila, yung tinatawag na orbit, these are called as shells. So So if we are going to create a diagram and identify kung ano yung mga positions ng subatomic particles, it would look like this one. So remember na yung core or the central part of the atom known as the nucleus, anong kumukompose sa kanya? Then it is composed of a neutron and a proton. How about those particles na nasa paligid ng nucleus? It is called electron. There are two important properties of subatomic particles which is especially important, and that includes yung kanyang mass at saka yung kanyang electrical charge. Just so you know that subatomic particles have specific charges. So as you can see here, yung proton has a positive charge, whereas neutron, from the word neutral, it has no charge. Electron, on the other hand, has a negative charge. But typically, in an atom, equal yung number ng proton at saka ng electron, kaya walang charge typically yung isang atom.
This time, let us try to determine how many protons does a certain element contains. Now, we should always remember that the atoms of any particular element always contain the same number of protons. Ibig sabihin, bawat element meron siyang certain number of protons na hindi nababago. So for example, yung hydrogen atom always contain 1 proton, yung carbon atoms naman always contain 12 protons, and yung magnesium naman is permanenteng contains 12 protons. So how does this entails? So yung the number of protons in an atom is known as its atomic number or its proton number. So usually in a periodic table, it is the smaller of the two number as shown on the periodic tables. Now let us try to compute the atomic number of the given elements. So can you try to guess or can you try to solve the atomic numbers of these elements? So you may pause the video while answering, but you will only be given 10 seconds. So are you ready? So the correct answers would be this one. For sodium, you have 11, iron is 26, you have 50, and for fluorine, you have 9. Based on what we have discussed just a while ago, we already know that the atomic number is based on the number of protons. And each element has a definite or hindi nababago or fixed number of protons. If the number of proton changes, then the atom becomes a different element. However, there are some cases wherein the protons or the neutrons may change, and this usually takes place in nuclear processes such as a radioactive decay, nuclear bombs, or in nuclear reactors. So ito lang yung mga cases na pwedeng mabago yung number of protons. We have discussed just a while ago that the number of protons determines an element's atomic number. On the other hand naman, the mass number of an element depends on the number of protons and neutrons in the nucleus, since the number of electrons is or has a mass of almost 0. Now, the sum of the protons and neutrons in an atom's nucleus is the mass number. So it is usually the larger of the two numbers which is located or is shown in most of the periodic table. Now, let us look at these examples. We have hydrogen, lithium, and aluminum. Hydrogen has 1 proton, 0 neutrons, so its mass number is 1. Lithium, on the other hand, has 3 protons, 4 neutrons. All you have to do is just add this one, so it has a mass number of 7. Aluminum has 13 protons, 14 neutrons, so add this up, so it has a mass number of 27. Always remember how to compute the mass number. So mass number is equals to number of protons plus the number of neutrons. Now try to identify what is the mass number of these atoms. So you have helium, copper, cobalt, iodine, and germanium. So you can pause or you may pause the video while answering. So good luck. Now, here are the correct answers. So 10 seconds to finalize your answer. So the correct answers would be for helium-4, copper is 64, cobalt is 59, iodine is 127, germanium has 73. So paano kinuha ito? Just add the number of protons and neutrons. So did you get it all correct? If so, congratulations. Let's proceed now on how to compute for the number of neutrons. It is important to remember that the number of neutrons is equals to the mass number minus the number of protons, or the mass number minus the atomic number. So, for example, how many neutrons are there in this atom? So, all you have to do is just subtract the atomic number from its mass number. So, are you ready for the correct answer? So, you may pause the video while answering. So, here are the correct answers. So, 10 seconds for you to finalize your answer. So, the correct answers would be this one. So, did you get it all correct? If so, congratulations. Ngayon naman, let us try to compute yung number of electrons. Importanteng ating tandaan na yung atoms have no electrical charge or is neutral. So, ibig sabihin, since neutral siya, ibig sabihin nun is that yung number of protons is equal to the number of electrons. So, ibig sabihin, the number of electrons is therefore the same as its atomic number. So, for example, yung helium has 2 protons. So, ibig sabihin, meron din siyang 2 electrons. Yung copper naman, since meron siyang 29 protons, ibig sabihin, meron din siyang 29 electrons. And yung iodine naman, meron siyang 53 protons. So, ibig sabihin, meron din siyang 53 neutrons. Now, the atomic number is defined as the number of protons rather than the number of electrons because yung atoms can lose or gain electrons but do not normally lose or gain protons. Kaya nga yung pinagbasehan is yung protons for its atomic number kasi permanent siya, unlike sa electrons na pwedeng mabago. This time, try to supply the missing numbers based on the given information. Now, you may pause the video while answering, and you can just press play if you are done. Okay, so here are the correct responses. So as you can see, magkapareho palagi yung number of electrons and protons. So all you have to do is copy the informations for the protons for the number of electrons, such as this one. Next one, since the number of protons or the number of electrons is also equal to the atomic number, since the atomic number depends on the number of protons, so meaning yung protons and electrons together with the atomic number, the values are the same. So meaning boron is also 5, 19, 24, mercury is 80 and 18. Now to get the mass number, you could either add the number of neutrons or the number of neutrons plus the number of electrons or the number of neutrons plus the atomic number para makuha mo yung mass number. So you have 11, 39, 52, 201, and 40. So did you got it all correct? If so, congratulations. Let us put all your learnings to the test by taking on the quiz challenge. So just like before, you may pause the video while answering and you may press play if you are done to check whether you got the correct answer. So good luck. Try to fill in the missing informations based on the given data. So you are going to try to supply or to compute the number of protons, electrons, number of neutrons, as well as its symbol and its mass number. So just like before, you may pause the video while answering and you may press play to check whether you got the correct answer. So good luck. So here are the correct answers. Did you got it all correct? Kung ganon, congratulations! Good job, and I hope you have learned and have fun while taking on the quiz. That's it for today's video. Please feel free to drop in your comment and click like, subscribe, and ring the bell for you to be updated on the upcoming videos. I'm Synatics, out!